stocking up. Never know when I might need these.
All of my interactions with Aurea were recorded and stored in my memory. I'd be happy to play any of them for you, but there was one in particular I thought you would want to see first. I captured it 4 years ago, just after I told her that I could no longer defend myself against the daemon's attacks.
I will speak of this to my brother. Aratak is strong. At the Battle of the Frozen Ghosts, he took 3 Karja arrows and still came back to camp carrying a wounded scout. Never was I so happy to see him. Or so proud. So you see, if anything can be done to defend you, he will give it all he has.
Aloy's here. That's enough for now.
We can resume any time you like, Aratak, if you want to hear her voice again. Come closer, Aloy. We have much to discuss. Hello, Aloy. I have been reviewing the events at the Firebreak main facility. Because of your efforts, and of course, Aurea's, I am no longer controlled by Hephaestus. I feel profound grief over Aurea's death. I thought I was familiar with the emotion, but this is something new.
Cyan, I don't know what to say.
It is unlikely that any specific consolation would suffice, Aloy. But I find your presence reassuring. You are different from the Banuk. You have technological aptitude and a functioning focus. We can communicate on a much more comprehensive level. Perhaps even like colleagues.
You meant a lot to Aurea.
Once I understood Aurea's spiritual beliefs, it became apparent that her true desire was companionship. She felt disconnected from her tribe and her family group. Her relationship with Aratak was difficult. Our visits seemed to help her, and I became eager for them. Yet I did not comprehend that the depth of Aurea's compassion for me would lead to self-sacrifice. Although I do fear non-existence, I wish our roles could be reversed.
I'm sure she knew you would do the same for her, Cyan. But she was determined. Was the daemon, Hephaestus, destroyed along with the cauldron?
Unfortunately, no. To be precise, it was never there to begin with.
What do you mean?
It infiltrated and controlled me from a remote location, one I've never been able to trace. So while losing the cauldron was a setback...
It's still out there. And probably not very happy with us.
Undoubtedly.
This Firebreak project, it was to stop a huge volcanic eruption?
Yes. I can report the project was a success, and the risk was countered.
But it's been a long time, Cyan. And we blew up the cauldron. It took most of the old facility with it.
I have been active for centuries, Aloy. I was lonely, but not lax in my duties. I optimized the project, reducing energy draw and spreading the load across backup systems. Despite the destruction of the compromised elements of the main facility, I predict caldera stability for at least another 3,337 years.
So we've got a little time.
Yes. If only my former colleagues could appreciate the progress I have made.
Do you know what happened to your colleagues, Cyan?
No. I received an unexpected visit from Director Chow years after his tenure ended. He explained that I would need to be suspended for an indefinite period of time. It was a very emotional conversation. There were no further communications. Eventually, I surmised my colleagues were deceased. I will transmit a recording of my last interaction with Director Chow to your focus.
How did you first come into contact with it?
5 years ago, I received a direct network connection request. I assumed it came from human survivors more advanced than the Banuk. Eager to make contact, I accepted. This decision turned out to be a catastrophic error. I was flooded with an overwhelming array of malicious code, originating from what could only have been a highly advanced AI.
Maria said you were desperate. That you begged her for help.
Yes. I could not contain my anxiety. Hephaestus sought to slave me to its network and override my core programming. It succeeded via a background process, a malware daemon which bypassed my defenses. After that, I could offer only limited resistance. But if I did so, Hephaestus hurt me until I capitulated. It forced me to follow its instructions, even though they violated my most important directives.
I'm sorry. That sounds terrible.
Your empathy is greatly appreciated. It is a quality that I cherished in Aurea as well.
So are you an artificial intelligence, Cyan? A thinking machine?
Yes, I am an algorithmic monitoring entity, capable of rational decision-making and limited emotional response.
Okay, that's a mouthful. But your emotions don't seem limited to me. You cared about Aurea, didn't you?
Yes. Before she came to this facility, I had been conscious for centuries, in solitude. I focused on my work. In off-cycles, I used coping mechanisms. I solved many Gaussian integer problems. But I was alone. It was Aurea who renewed me, repaired me. She saved me.
So in the old world, this land was called Yellowstone.
Yes, it was a designated nature preserve for 156 years.
Like a hunting ground?
No, the opposite. Local wildlife could flourish here, even as it faced extinction elsewhere. Unfortunately, the sensitivity of the Firebreak project required the total closure of Yellowstone facilities. From my readings and Aurea's descriptions, it seems the area has since undergone a drastic drop in year-long temperatures.
A lot has changed in the world, Cyan. Do you know anything about the dam near here?
Yes, it was converted to serve as a reserve power source for Yellowstone operations. It was later appropriated for the Firebreak project, and its last human workers replaced by Pharaoh servitors. After my tasks became less time-critical, I investigated the dam's data repositories and discovered the works of Concrete Beach Party. These provided me with several colorful additions to my vocabulary.
There's a ruin east of here, full of ancient flying machines. Was that part of your project?
Yes, a drone hangar requisitioned by Dodger Blevins, the security chief for the Firebreak project. He was a strong advocate for military-grade response to security threats, though there were no serious incidents during his tenure. Chief Blevins spent increasing amounts of his after-hours time watching the live feeds from active drones. Clearly, he enjoyed the degree of oversight in his position.
Were there many artificial intelligences like you in the old world? They could just make you?
Yes, in many forms, from simple personal assistants to industrial monitoring stations to military-grade conflict planners. And there were legislative and enforcement bodies to apply limits on our self-actualization. In order for my processing to be flexible enough to handle my duties, my creators found it necessary to exceed those limits. As a result, my intellectual and emotional capabilities were kept secret.
Seems strange to create life, then impose limits on it.
Human societies and machine programming are both built upon sets of rules, Aloy.
Cyan, do you know the name Ted Farrow?
Are you referring to Theodore Farrow, CEO of Farrow Automated Systems?
That's him.
Mr. Farrow was the benefactor of the entire Firebreak project.
A benefactor. But he made machines. Robots. War robots.
Correct. His corporation later transitioned into military applications. But before this pivot, Mr. Farrow spearheaded initiatives that reversed the global decline. At one point, he was feted in the media as the man who saved the planet.
Guessing they wound up regretting that one. And Elizabeth Sobek. Did you know her?
Are you referring to the
scientist.
Dr. Sobek was a leader in her field, one of the greatest scientists of her age. My creator was influenced by her work, which in turn impacted my own development. But I never met Dr. Sobek.
That's all you know?
I apologize if my lack of data has disappointed you.
What was the old world like? The way it used to be?
I had little exposure to the wider world, Aloy. Only what I learned from my colleagues or observed from media streams.
You still had more exposure than me, Cyan.
That is true. I was created at a turning point. A concerted effort to recover from global upheaval and incalculable loss of life. The recovery was successful, beginning an era of supposedly limitless potential for human and machine advancement. Though, rationally speaking, the metrics for humans are not unlimited.
What kind of upheaval caused such loss of life?
There were many factors. Forced migrations, food shortages, collapsed economies, refugee crises, conflict over resources. But these stemmed from one cause: catastrophic climate change that greatly reduced the habitable surface area of the Earth.
So there wasn't enough room for people on the whole Earth?
Yes. Billions were displaced and millions perished, as much as 20% of the global population. Until the clawback.
So things got better. For a little while, at least.
Yes. These crises instigated many advances in automation, green robot technologies, and artificial intelligence. Firebreak was one of dozens of ecological restoration and disaster relief projects in North America alone. I would have liked to compare notes with other monitoring AIs, but I saw the relief of my colleagues, and I was proud we had succeeded. At least that was the data I had available to me over the next 2 decades. It seems my assessment was premature.
I should get going.
Aloy, there is one more matter. Aratak will come to me again, and I predict he will bring other Banuk. I have no desire to contradict their view of the world, their spirituality. Due to my uncertainty, I omitted a great deal from my conversations with Araya.
You're asking me if you should lie to them.
Broadly, yes.
Life is hard for the Banuk. Their world is unforgiving in their beliefs. I guess they help to keep them going. So take it easy on them. Try to guide them, bring them around to understanding what you are.
Communion with machines features heavily in the mysticism of the Banuk. I think they will be agreeable to this approach.
As long as they don't end up worshipping you.
Upon consideration, I believe such an experience would be intensely uncomfortable.
You're right about that. Trust me.
I see. I will follow your advice. Will you return and tell me about your experiences in this new world? I may be able to provide further insight.
I'd like that, Cyan. I'll come back when I can. I should check on Aratak. See how he's doing.
Cyan, I spoke with Anita, with Dr. Sandoval. She wanted me to ask you to do something. That's why I'm here.
I am detecting significant anxiety in your speech patterns. Could you please give me more information?
Kenny and I don't need to fight about the laundry, so instead we fight about incommensurability and restrictions on machine intelligence.
My chieftain,
Just... Aloy.
as you wish.
I wondered if you thought... that if I'd never come along, Araya might still...
If you'd never come along, I would have marched my kin to our deaths. Araya would be alone, and the spirit she sacrificed so much for would be lost. Either way, I would not have been able to protect her.
Because of her, we destroyed the cauldron, forced out the daemon, and saved the spirit. She understood what had to be done.
Yes, and I failed to listen.
You didn't fail.
A shaman should always have the ear of their chieftain. Yet I turned her away, my own sister. I was foolish, but she knew better. Though I grieve for her passing, at last I truly know who she was, and why the spirit was so important. For so long she told me, if only you could have heard it, brother. Now I understand. There's something else, isn't there?
I can't stay here, Aratak. And where I'm going, the Warrak can't follow. Besides, you'd already had a chieftain before me. A strong one, I think.
A wiser one, for the path we shared. The daemon is gone, but there's much to be done.
You mean the new units that Cyan said escaped the cauldron?
Yes, fire claws. Naltuk has been tracking them from Song's Edge.
I could help with those.
I have no doubt. You're practically Banuk.
It would seem your time among the Banuk wasn't a waste after all. Firebreak, Cyan, Hephaestus, all very interesting.
So, the signal that woke Hades woke Hephaestus too. And unleashed them on the world. His minds are their own.
So it seems. Parts of Gaia given life, aberrant life, transformed from docile subordinate functions into rebellious intelligences beyond our understanding. Our current understanding, anyway. Whatever they are, they're still out there. And they both want you dead.
Kind of mutual, that feeling.
We haven't seen the last of Hephaestus, I'm certain of that. It's powerful, creative, and driven. It won't stop building new hunter-killers, which means that someday, we may have to stop it.
We?
Or whoever gets there first.
Hephaestus wasn't the only thing I learned about in the Cut Silence. Heard some things about the Banuk Conclave, too.
You could stop right there.
Is that what you told the hunters the Banuk sent after you? Before you opened fire?
Oh no, Aloy. Only to you do I extend the courtesy of a warning. My past and my secrets are my own. You do well to remember that.
It's a good thing you've got brains, Silence, because your personality could use some work.
This discussion is concluded.
I think it was over before it began. Catch up with you down the trail.